Hey everybody, before we get started on today's video, I wanted to call out, you'll notice I'm wearing my Racing for Vets t-shirt. Racing for Vets is the charity that we've sponsored through Challenger Fest for about the past 7 years, and their mission is to help service wounded veterans rehabilitate, get job opportunities, education, network, get their career path started in a motorsports career, and they start that rehabilitation usually through a go-kart racing program. If you're looking for a charity to sponsor in 2020, I would encourage you to go check out racingforvets.org. They're a great bunch of people. It's a nonprofit organization. All donations are 100% tax deductible. And with that said, let's get on to today's video. Oh boy. Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the Speedy's Garage YouTube channel. Today, I'm actually going to put to use these brackets that I showed you how to make in last week's video. So let's get to it. And if you've been following along, you know that means we're back on Project SportRunner again this week. And I've got a couple of emails and some messages on Instagram saying, hey man, why do you like that 4Runner so much? Well, first of all, it was one of the nice body styles that Toyota actually came out with. It's kind of compact, they're very durable and reliable, but most importantly, at least for my cases, you got this TRD supercharger that was an option at the time. Now I picked this one up from a dealer that was clearancing them out, got them pretty cheap. They're a little bit more expensive these days, but still in my opinion well worth it. We've got the meth injection, we've got a 2.1 pulley. This thing makes 11 pounds of boost, and it's been running like this. It's been supercharged for about 80,000 miles, probably 12 or 14, 15 years, something like that. This was my first experience with a supercharged car, and I've been in love with them ever since. The meth injection just gave us a lot more power. It actually added a lot. I was able to zero out the timing map and let it run full timing. So at wide open throttle, 11 pounds of boost with the meth injection running, I'm seeing about 20 degrees of timing, which is phenomenal on this little truck, and it needed it. It was a little bit underpowered as it was, but that's why I love it so much. It's got a TRD, stands for Toyota Racing Development Supercharger on it, making 11 pounds of boost, gives a little bit of a unique quality. But superchargers aren't what we're here to talk about this week. If you followed along last week, you know I've been looking at doing some footwell, ambient, sometimes it's called courtesy lighting, sometimes it's called ambient lighting, or both. But I want the footwells to light up when I open the door, and when I turn the lights on, even the parking lights, I want just a dim glow in the footwells, both driver and passenger area up front, as well as the passenger areas in the back. So we're gonna get started on that with taking some of the interior out to give us room to work. So let's get going. The seats are held in place by 4 14mm bolts. There's some plastic covers you have to pop off to get to those. Be careful not to break them. I just used some pressure and kind of looked to see how they connected, pop those off. That gets us to the bolts. Now we're gonna get those removed, start taking the seats out. There's 2 electrical plugs under the seat, but you only have to unplug, at least on the passenger side, the front one. Disconnect that, fold the seat forward, and just lift it out. A little heavy. And if any of those little plastic covers give you trouble, a little persuasion with I call it a trim pry tool or dash pry tool from the back, and they'll pop right off. Now we're on to the driver's side, same 14mm bolts. Yes, I did cut myself. Oh well. Same deal on the driver's side. 1 electrical plug you need to disconnect. Rock the seat forward. We're going to take it out. And there's my Marine Corps K-bar under the seat. Ooh, freaking raw. If you watched last week, you know we need to get the glove box out of the way. Easy peasy. It's just 2 Phillips head screws. And it will literally just drop out. Just like that. And finally, we need to lower this dash panel, and it's just 4 10mm bolts. Cup holders make a good place to store them. Now we just gently ease it down. And I'm not sure how extensive I'm going to have to get under here, but I want this panel completely out of the way. So I'm going to remove the 2 Phillips head screws that hold the hood latch and gas door latch in place, so that I can get this panel completely out of the way. We're getting to the point where we got quite a few bolts and screws removed. These aren't ones I've actually removed before, and I'm used to most of the rest of them, but whenever I'm not sure where a screw or bolt might go, I try to put it back in the original hole where it came from. So I'm going to just keep those with this panel so that I know they get back where they're supposed to be. I plan to terminate my wiring underneath this console right here. So I'm going to go ahead and take this out I'm probably gonna have to remove this upper piece. It's been a while since I've had this apart. I can't remember if I can take this out without this. I think I can, but my wire's gonna kind of come in and come around, and if I have to take this out too, that's fine, but I know I'm gonna need this. There's a small machine screw if you have the automatic ADD system. You don't have to take it out all the way, just back it out enough where that'll move around, and then you'll need to pop off the little catch right there. Don't lose it like I just did. And then you can pull this back into, if you push this down, you can pull this back into neutral. So we're gonna do that next, and then see if we can just pop this out. Oh, there is one small switch you have to disconnect. It goes to the ADD button. So we'll disconnect that, but we lucked out on that one. Just to make sure I have access to everything I need and I'm in here now, I'm going to go ahead and take this out. It's easy to do. I'm going to start by removing the ashtray and then just start gently popping it off. There are quite a few plugs. So you've got the ashtray light, which just pops out the back, easy peasy. You've got a couple of sockets that will have to be disconnected, your power plugs. So those get popped off. There's some harnesses up here in the top. We'll unplug those for the clock and the hazard lights. And finally, more 12-volt sockets. So now we got this out of the way, and we've easily got access to everything we need. Well, that's everything in the dash area. I think next we're going to start looking at that dome light. And that's pretty straightforward. You just want to be real careful with the lens. And then it's just looks like two Phillips head screws. And finally, just a single plug. Now mine's a 2002 model. Yours might be different, but that's how mine ends up looking. And I've taken quite a bit of the interior out at this point, but I've been working on this truck a long time and I've had it in and out a lot over the years working on various things. So it literally took me about 30 minutes to get to this point. Now that I've shown you all the ins and outs, it shouldn't take you that long either. You can get it done, just follow along. And this is where things get a little bit interesting in terms of how this vehicle is wired. The doors, when they open to turn on this light, when you have it set to the door switch selection, they ground. So they're what's called ground switched. So when you have it on door, you open the door, there's a little switch at each door, and it grounds when the door is open, and it's open when the door is closed. I hope that makes sense. It's open and closed switch. When you have it off, obviously nothing happens. The real trickery comes when you flip it on. When you turn this on, it doesn't actually feed power anywhere. What it does is it grounds straight at this light to one of the screws that holds it in place in the roof of the vehicle. When I want my entry lights, the way I want the footwell lighting to work, the bright ones, I want them to come on anytime this light is on. So if the doors are open, they light up. If I flip this on, they also light up. Because if I've turned this on, probably I've dropped something and it's probably in the footwell anyway. This light doesn't really do a good job of lighting that area up. In order to do that, we're going to have to figure out how to tap into the ground of this light housing on the side where it connects to that switch. So that's I'm gonna think about that for a minute. And I've been referencing the interior light wiring diagram, and the electronic wiring diagram manual, Toyota did a really good job. It's all color coded. I found most of it to be correct. In my situation, the map lights, I'm gonna do something with those later, they're wired backwards than what the actual diagram shows, but we'll talk about that another day. It's page 92 of the manual. If you're working on one of these, you probably already have this, but I'll kind of post a picture of what the wiring diagram looks like there. And what you'll notice is you look at that interior front light circuit, and you can see that there's a light green and black wire that goes to it when it's on the door setting. So if you don't care about the footwells lighting up when the light is on, you could just tap that wire at the little plug at the light and be good to go. You just tap into that, run your wire down and connect it to your LEDs, and you're good. However, if you want it to come on with the light when you turn it on manually, you can see there that that on switch goes straight to ground, so you don't really have another choice. So back to it. So I'm pretty sure it's going to ground on this side. That's really what makes sense. It's opposite of the switch, and when you flip it to there, the power is going to flow just through this. And this is your power pin, and it's a light blue with yellow stripe, and this is a light green with black stripe. But again, that's only when the doors open and close. I actually want the footwell lighting to come on when it's in the on position as well. So I need to know where the ground is when this happens, because that means the light's on. It's going to send a ground down to my LEDs and light them up as well. And then it'll also work here because the light is on. So obviously it's grounded. So what I kind of need to understand is where this is in relation to the switch, and I'm going to do that by checking with a multimeter. I'm going to put it on continuity, and basically what that means is when there's current flow, it'll beep. So if we get that beep when we've got this thing on and door, we know we got the right place. I'm going to try to explain this so that it's simple, and it's for a 2002 Toyota Dome Light 4Runner. If you're working on a different car, you want to do similar testing, but I'll tell you how this one works. So when it's off, we shouldn't get anything, and I'm confident this side's ground. So I'm going to put my probes on here, and you see we don't get anything. We shouldn't get anything from these pins either, and we don't. So now you know it's off, and that matches. If we put it on door, now we know 5 volts comes in, or 12 volts, I'm sorry, comes in up here at the top. That's where our yellow with blue stripe wire is. And now we should get continuity between these two because it's completing the circuit. Shouldn't get anything down here because that's going to run down to the door switch. Now if we flip it on, it's strictly grounding straight to the screws that go to the body. So now this strap should ground on either one of these. And it does. So what that means is we want to tie into this somehow, and it's difficult to solder to one of these things, but they've left us a nice hole right here. So I'm thinking I can put a ring terminal and a screw and just run a wire out of the back of it. So that's what I'm going to try to do. Well, I went to my jar of misfit bolts and screws from projects past, and I found this little guy. It's a self-tapping small Phillips head screw that will be perfect. It will cut threads into this little brace or bracket right here and ground. And there's our ring terminal we're going to use. Now we just got to fish this from there to there. So this has some Christmas trees, that's what I call them, on the back. It was on there pretty tight. I had to kind of reach my fingers around, just apply constant gentle pressure, and that popped off. I did have to go ahead and remove this back piece of trim for the back seat carpet as well. But now we've got some pretty good access. We've got a screw here, and we just need to make a little bit of room to get a coat hanger through here. That's how I'm going to try to fish the wire. So that's next. I wanted to avoid having to mess with the seat belt here, and it's bolted in and holds this panel. So what I tried to do is just use a pry tool, and there's clips, and you kind of feel where they are, where it gets real tight, and then just gently, you don't want to dent the headliner, you don't want to gouge your plastic, you can just gently apply pressure and they'll start to pop loose, and you can just work your way down. That allows you to get behind the headliner. And then I just ran a hanger, so I just pushed it in from the light, dome light, pushed it across. There's the end of it right there. We'll tape the wire, the ground wire, to that, and then just pull it back across the roof, and then we'll have it hanging down and run it, like I said, underneath the carpet. So not too bad. We just got to go prepare the wire now. You guys have heard me say before that when you have electrical problems, it's usually a ground, and the last thing you want is a short. So I'm going to run the wire inside some of this mesh wire loom, and this is the non-fraying kind. I really like this stuff. It's durable, works really well, but it's a little bit tricky to use. So I'm going to show you how to feed a wire through it real quick. You can start off obviously just by feeding it, but you'll get to a point where it won't want to go any further. So what you do is you find the end of the wire, and then you kind of treat it like an accordion. You hold on loosely and you just push. And that's how you can feed the wire back through this loom, and it'll go as far as you want it to. Then I'm just going to tape the wire onto the hanger, and it's easier to pull wire than it is to push it, so start pulling it through. Pretty easy. I did use a pry tool to just give me a little bit of space between the headliner and the wire. Now that's in there. And it's best practice to always try to follow the factory wiring. So that's exactly what I did here. You can see I ran it down. I did put a little bit of extra tape on it where it's close to this hole. That's where I ran it into the pillar, just so it doesn't rub. I've left it loose there too, so it's not under any tension. And you want to make sure you got it where the panel, when it goes back and you put your screw in, that it's not pinching it. And I just followed the factory wire right down, connected it into the little plastic connector that just flips open with a flathead screwdriver, connected into this one, and now I've done the same coat hanger trick. And underneath carpet, it helps, a little top tip, if you put a little loop on the end of your hanger, it'll make it easier to push through. There's the other end, and now, like I said, it's easier to pull wire than it is to push it, so we're just going to pull the wire across, and then we're going to terminate everything under the console, like I said before. All right, kids, I think we're going to call it quits right there for today. I don't want to fry your minds with too much wiring, so be sure to tune in next week. We're going to complete that project. You'll be surprised at how well it actually turned out. I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to give it a thumbs up if you did. Check us out on Instagram. It's @Speedys_garage, as well as our website, www.speedysgarage.net, and hopefully I will see you out there.